This case actually has two parts to it. Miss Salas?
Silas.
Miss Salas, this is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law.
Correct.
And there are two parts to your case. You were deployed to where, sir?
Japan, Yokosuka, Japan.
And at the time you were deployed to the coast of Japan, I assume this is your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
Before you left for Japan, where were you living?
We had a spot together, and then we moved out. The plan was to move in with Miss Silas.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Because your daughter didn't want to be alone.
Yes,
when
ma'am.
he was away, and you could help her with the baby.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
old was the child at the time?
7.
And was it just you living in your house?
Yes, ma'am.
So your daughter came home with your grandchild, and he went to Japan.
Yes, ma'am.
Now here's the case. When you were deployed, your wife got a housing allowance?
I received the housing allowance.
For her, not for you.
I will receive it either way.
I don't understand what that means.
So I will receive the housing allowance whether I was married or not. The difference in me being married or not is just $200.
Okay. So when you were living in Japan, were you living on government property or were you living in a private facility?
In the beginning, I was living on government property, and then I moved to my own place.
When did you leave for Japan?
December 2014.
And when were you living in your own space?
Roughly January 2016.
So you lived all of 2015 on government property.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so did you pay rent on government property?
No, Your Honor.
Did you receive any money for your wife and child during the year that you lived on government property?
Yes, Your Honor.
How much?
$1,600 a month.
And that was designed for your dependents back in the States?
At this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, at this point, you were living on government property. Were you eating on government property?
I would eat on government property or out in town, Your Honor.
But you had the opportunity to eat on government property.
Yes.
And was any other monies being sent home to your wife and child?
Yes.
Other